Hello everyone, my name is Jess Dash. I'm an advocate for foster children, foster parents, and caregivers, therapists, and foster allies alike all over the world. I am 23 years old, but I spent the first 18 years of my life in the foster care system in upstate New York. And during that time, I experienced a lot of very interesting things. I was adopted into a white family, upper middle class, in a very small town. Yet at the same time, I was literally born in sort of the polar opposite world, a working class family in a relatively metropolitan area. And not many people in my family have an extensive background in education or education beyond high school. So it's not pretty, but those are the facts, and I'm sure I'm sort of taking a risk here. I'm probably going to make some of my family pretty angry. I don't know how ready everyone is to talk about it, but I'm ready to talk about what it's like to be free from foster care. And I've given a few talks over the years and written one or two published articles for some small foster care magazines, but I feel like it's necessary for me to use social media for the first time to really hopefully reach out to other youth like me, and potentially maybe find some people who are saying and feeling the same things that I am. And in the light of the upcoming presidential election, I don't know how much influence we'll have this year, but I definitely want to move this issue from the underground to where it is to the forefront, where it needs to be. This needs to be something that everyone's talking about. Foster care and adoption need to be talked about just as much as mental health, just as much as gun control, just as much as the war on drugs and immigration and foreign policy and our economy. So I'll get into more on that later, but I want to basically give you a sense of what foster care is like by asking everyone that's watching this, if you think back to elementary school, do you remember doing an exercise where it was like, I think sometimes a writing exercise at the beginning of the year, they would ask you, so if you were in a fire and you could only take a few things with you, what would you take? And it's obvious that in a fire you're in a panic and you would most likely take the things that are most important to you. And in that scenario, for a lot of my classmates, and probably for a lot of you watching, it goes without saying that your family would come with you. And before I get into the heart of the matter, which is really the family piece, I just want to talk a little bit about what it's like to pack up all your things and move away. So let's think about what it's like to have a fire in your home. Let's say it burns down completely to the ground. Even if you don't move to a new town or a new state or a new country, you still have to adjust. You have to gather all the few things that you may have, or start off from scratch in a brand new place. Maybe it means that your kids have to go to a different school. Maybe your commute to work is a little bit longer. Maybe you're going to have to cut corners in other places in order to sort of absorb the cost of moving into a new place. And for foster youth, every time that we are uprooted, every time you take a child from one home and place them in another home, it's sort of like burning down their emotional house. There's no more explanation, really. There's no way to make it more clear. So I want to give an example, because as I sit back and look at my experience over the last few years, I realize that there's been a ritual, literally probably about every 3 months or 6 months on average. I would go through the routine of packing my things, usually in a trash bag, and settling into a new home. And sometimes that was 15 minutes away, sometimes that was several hours away from my birth family. And when I got adopted, I was even further isolated. I was one of 1.5 black people to graduate from my high school. And this is, if there was ever a time when I really needed racial support and, you know, just support of foster youth in general, it definitely would have been the time that I was preparing to sort of make my mark on the world and hit the ground running. And instead of being met with that support, I found that there was an even greater challenge, which was that before I could really go to school and do what I needed to do and get good grades and apply for internships and write a resume, I really needed to make sense of what happened to me. And to bring it back to the metaphor of having your house burned down, I had that happen to me over and over and over again. And in places where and I make no bones about the fact that I was a difficult kid, okay? I never got arrested. I never had any like legal trouble, but I was emotionally troubled. I had a lot of anger problems. I was very sad and very hurt by the world. And my house had burned down a lot. So in each place, I wasn't only met with the excitement of having an opportunity to sort of start over with a new family, but I also had to sort of mold myself to be able to fit in with that family as best as possible in hopes that they would want to keep me forever, and that I wouldn't have to go through that ritual of packing up my things in a miserable trash bag and lugging them to the next place, where I would basically rinse and repeat until I was thrown into my first group home. And if you think about how catastrophic it is to have your house burned down once, think about how horrible it is to have it burned down over and over and over again. There's only so many times that a person has the will and the inner strength to keep rebuilding their house before they say, screw it, it's just not meant to be, and they move on. And I cannot stress enough that this is not just a problem for a few people, for a handful of people. If you go to a jail, or you go to a soup kitchen, or you go to a food pantry, or you drive down the street in some cities and you talk to some homeless people on the sides of the street, you will hear that every single one of them was abused and or neglected and spent some amount of time in foster care, or they had some sort of contact with a caseworker or child protective worker in their lifetime. And the sad reality of this is that if we don't fix this problem and we don't create an environment which makes it safe for youth to talk about their experiences and to sort of try to influence some change, we are creating America's debt problem. We are adding to the problems with gun violence. We are creating more of an issue out of mental health than it really needs to be, for the simple fact that people won't take a minute to really listen to what your children are saying. The importance of this is that if you take, really any social issue, you can all sort of trace it back to really bad parenting. And this may not be a reflection. I have no idea, I have no insight what it's like to grow up in a normal family home. But I guarantee you that children who don't have the opportunity, or at least a fair shot at normalcy and a family that claims them no matter what, are the same kids that are going, and the same adults whose children are going to be a very expensive problem for us in the long run. Now more than ever, it's more important that we as a country produce a workforce that is educated and well equipped to perform overseas in a number of different industries. And there's all this money, billions and billions of dollars, being poured into public scholarships and research programs to track foster children to see how they're doing once they get to college. But nobody stopped to take a minute to figure out that this is actually a problem. Foster care is not working. And I think perhaps I'm a little bit late in my timing, because it doesn't take a genius or a political analyst to really turn on the news and realize that our country has a major problem at home. And that's not just to do with education, and it's not just to do with poverty. It's not just to do with getting more jobs. It's so funny, like we say, oh yeah, you know, if we're going to fix America, we need more jobs. Well, no, not really. I think we have enough jobs. I think the problem is that we don't have the workforce for those jobs. And the area, the sector of our society that produces the people that create that strong middle class workforce we're all talking about, we are missing out on a huge opportunity to really create that in the kids that people forgot about. If you're going to give them money to get through college, give them everything they need. Give them, you know, not just room and board, but a place to go on winter and summer vacation, a family to be with on Thanksgiving. Give them somebody to call when their car breaks down or when they get a flat tire. Give them something more to hold on to at that age of 18 than what I got, which was a box that basically was full of notes from all of my doctor's exams and letters and statements from foster parents who didn't want me. And I will tell you, I do not know why I didn't end up in a different position than I am. I don't know. I don't think it has anything to do with anything except that I just did not make that a choice for myself. I sort of saw it coming, and I didn't want that. There's a lot more to that, because there were so many people, and to this day are so many people that support me in moving forward from that and moving past that. But the problem is that for 20,000 new kids a year, every single one of us at some point sits down with that box and thinks, wow, I was a troubled kid. Nobody wanted me. I don't even have any, I mean, most people, when they go off to college, they have a teddy bear, they have pictures of their family, you know, their favorite pajamas. I didn't have any of that. I had a box full of notes about what happened at my eye exams when I was 12 and how my mother didn't want me and I was a troubled child. That's what I had. And when you give someone that toolkit for facing today's world, it's no wonder people are becoming drug addicts at an all-time high. It's no wonder you're seeing more shootings and more gang affiliations and terrorists and all this crazy, scary stuff that makes up the current events that is today. Because what have we given our children? What have we given them? Except a box full of disappointment and constantly burning down their houses over and over and over again. If you agree with what I have to say, if you're a foster youth who's transitioning into adulthood and you need help finding college resources, or information about scholarships or other government benefits available to you, please feel free to contact me. The email is chewonthat2020@gmail.com. I'll put a link to my email in the comment section below. If you are a caregiver or related to a foster child or even a birth parent who lost a child to the child welfare system, I encourage you to please speak up and share your experience. This is a growing problem, and it's not going to get any better if people don't start talking. So I ask you to please subscribe to my channel, keep me motivated to keep making these videos. And you know, I encourage each and every person watching this to send this to somebody that they know, and to maybe the next time you're walking down the street, talk to a homeless person. You'll be amazed at what that teaches you about our society and where we really are in 2015.